Hi, and welcome to another edition of Seniors Today. I'm your host, Tom Bartee, and today we have with us Mr. Chip Carter, who actually wears many hats, but today, Chip, we're going to talk a little bit about your history growing up in Vallejo and maybe a little bit about your work in the pipe shop at Mare Island, and also, of course, you're with North Bay Cabinets. You're the president and CEO of North Bay Cabinets, and then also the Boys Under the Hood.
Founding member, yeah.
So thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. When I originally wanted to have you on the show, I had 2 or 3 people recommend to me that, you know, if somebody knows about the history of Vallejo, it's Chip Carter. And I know that you furrow your brow slightly about that, but that's how people see you.
Well, that means I'd have 3 friends, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, there were. I guess I talked to all of them in one day. But I know that your family has some deep roots in the community, and I think you originally were from San Luis Obispo.
Yeah, born in San Luis Obispo, traveled. My brothers and sisters were all born in different cities. We were in Napa last, and then, actually, I've never mentioned to you, but we were in Redding for a while after my parents split up, and my dad actually kidnapped us and took us all to Texas, where his family was from, all the Carter family, and he dispersed us among his sisters and wouldn't tell our mother where we were. So she spent 2 years trying to find us, and nowadays they'd have put him in jail for that, but you know, back then we were just with somebody that we didn't know.
Wow.
One of his aunts. And then she'd remarried after a couple of years and finally found us and brought us back, and that's when we ended up in Vallejo, living on Old Glen Cove Road.
Wow, that's a pretty incredible story. Well, you had said that the reason you were in San Luis Obispo, or born there, is your dad was on the GI Bill at Cal Poly?
Yeah, he was going to school there, and I've seen pictures of where they lived. There was like hundreds of small trailers that all these GIs lived in and everything. And he went to school, but my mother says he barely went to school, that she went in his place a lot of times, but it was uncommon for a woman to be going to school, so she felt real out of place, but she did his work for him. He was only there for the sports, football and baseball. And actually he wasn't a first string quarterback, but he was second string, and they called him a knocked out Jerry, because every time he'd run a big play, he would pass out and they'd have to carry him off the field, and he'd wake up middle of a trip across the field and just wave to the crowd and they'd all go nuts. So they loved it when he come in and played. But he was a softball pitcher and heavy into golf, and sports is all he cared about.
Well, that's a pretty cool story. So so then you ended up around 3rd grade in Vallejo?
Yeah, come from Texas in first part of 3rd grade here. And we went up to John Davidson, living on Glen Cove Road.
Yeah, so Glen Cove Road was kind of a rural area back then?
Yeah, I'd say it was, and where the subdivision now is, that was our playground, the fields, and my sister had a horse out there, and we played up in the eucalyptus groves, and people went dove hunting up there, so you watched for gunfire.
Yeah, there's that whole line. I remember when they built Glen Cove, that whole row of eucalyptus trees were probably part of the boundary of their farm or something.
Yeah, I never did know who owned that property or what it was, but we played on it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, do you remember what school you were in 3rd grade?
Yeah, Davidson. We went up to Davidson. We lived on La Jolla Street right behind the school, so we played a lot in the school. And I did, going from Texas to California, school was different. We were more advanced in Texas, so I come up here and had learned the things that they were teaching in 3rd grade here until we caught up. And I did 4th and 5th and part of 6th, the very beginning of 6th grade, and that's when my parents moved down to Stephen Manor School. We lived next door to Stephen Manor School, and we ran that neighborhood for years.
You ran the neighborhood?
We were the Sons of Stephen. Yeah, that we were the SOS. There was about 20 of us kids. We also had fast bicycles, paper routes, so we could steal everything we get our hands on and not get caught. We roamed that whole area on bicycles, being little juvenile delinquents.
Well, I can see just a little piece of that still left in you, but
Yeah,
maybe it's related to the boys under the hood somehow.
yeah, stealing car parts.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So then you had, was it Hogan? Was it high school then?
Yeah. Well,
So you
when I
went-
first went, it was a junior high. So,
Yeah.
let's see, ninth grade was there when it was junior high, and then Springtown was completed. So we went there the 2 years, and then back to Hogan.
When that was high school.
Yeah.
So Hogan graduate, and what did you do? Any other postgraduate kind of
I went to
studies?
Solano College for 2 years, and the minute my schooling finished, I got an AA degree, I got drafted. So did almost a couple of years in the Army, and I hated that real well, so come back to town and went to work, got a job.
So was Solano College at Wiedemann Elementary then?
Yeah, here in
And
Vallejo.
And they were somewhere else before that, then they went to Wiedemann. And
They were
then,
across the street, weren't they?
somebody told me in one of the interviews I did, and that just kind of like, senior moment.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, for my audience, I want to say that I would like to change the name of the show to Senior Moments. So if anybody has any major objections, please write the TV station. Or you can probably get the information at vcat.tv. So anyway, back to the interview. So they went from there then to Solano College
Yeah.
after that. So was there a lottery then? Did you have a draft number?
Oh yeah, draft. I think my number was in the 40s.
Whoa.
So I got my draft notice on my wedding day, so my mother hid it from me until I come back from my honeymoon. And then about when I went into the Army, there was about 40 or 50 guys from Vallejo. We filled up a couple buses load going to Fort Ord.
Were they SOS members?
A couple of them were,
Yeah.
but they were neighborhood guys, but not too many from the SOS. Because I was one of the oldest in the SOS. The Sons of Stephen was the neighborhood guys, and I think myself and one other guy were in the same grade. But my brothers were in it, and all of our friends, and everybody that lived in the neighborhood.
So
And the Sons of Stephen wasn't for Stephen Manor School, it was Stephen Manor Market. Okay, so we were the Sons of the Stephen Manor Market, because there was a bus stop bench up on the next to the market, the old wooden building, if you were around here then. And we sat there all day long, drinking the Cokes that we stole out of the store, making obscene phone calls with a penny and a pixie stick, and all the little tricks kids do. We were doing it. So just juveniles, but not really in trouble.
Well, where I grew up in Western New York, we had a club of kids that same age, and we called ourselves the Roadrunners. And we had T-shirts with a Roadrunner on it, and all of our little souped-up bikes, and we'd cruise around. And
Is that right?
we never got in the same kind of trouble as that. We were probably more of a lame neighborhood group. We probably didn't have the testosterone you guys had.
Yeah, everybody's always come up with an idea to do something mischievous. We'd steal Cokes out of Coke machines. We'd figure out how to get Cokes for free, and we'd go to next to the Stephen Manor Market was a Chevron gas station. And they had one of those Coke chests, about that high, and you lifted the lid and put your dime in. Well, the owner of the station would always take the money out. But then when you lift the lid and put a dime in, you got your dime back. So we'd spend half hour draining that Coke machine of everything.
But dime in, dime out, dime in.
Yeah, and when he figured that out, he put a padlock on it, so we just got the lock.
So where were you stationed when you first went in the military?
At Fort Ord, went
Okay,
training
so
down there.
back down there.
Yeah, stayed there a while.
And so 2 years, did you go anywhere outside of the U.S.?
No, I was lucky. I had orders to Vietnam, and we were the first company of soldiers that President Nixon decided we weren't sending more people over there. So they were changed. So I sat around for a while, ended up on the Presidio.
Yeah, my draft number was 325.
Oh, you lucky dog.
I know. I was real lucky.
The only time, that it was a good thing to be a veteran was getting the government job. I got an automatic 10 points or 5 points, and that helped me get hired on Mare Island. And when they started the big layoffs in the 80s, they couldn't lay me off because I was a vet.
Well, when did you start at Mare Island?
75.
So you did that pretty close to when you got out of the military?
Yeah, not within a couple of years, but when I got out of the military, I went back to work at AGE where I had been, but I didn't last there long because my stepfather was a big-time contractor, and he always wanted me to follow him in construction. And he built and during redevelopment, where the city redevelopment is, and where Lower Georgia Street, that Unity Center, he built all those buildings around there. And he built Larwin Plaza, and he was working for the Larwin Corporation and talked me into going into construction, find out what that was like. And I lasted about 2 years commuting to various locations, South Bay. And my title was field clerk, but it was a flunky. Go get whatever the superintendent wanted. I had to go count the number of studs that it took to build a house, stupid things like that.
You mean are carpenters or wood studs?
Wood studs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then when he got laid off, and like I said, he was a big project manager. He got laid off, and then I didn't last too long. I got laid off of a job because it slowed down, and I realized if I stayed in that trade, I'd be always worried about being laid off, and so I didn't want to. And so I took a job manufacturing Formica countertops, and that's how I got started in business.
Wow.
Yes.
So when did you start manufacturing the countertops?
73, I think.
So you did that while you worked at Mare Island?
No.
You just did that for a couple of years, and then
Yeah, and well, actually, I did that for a little bit less than a year because it was a good plant. We were union carpenters, made good money, but I could see the writing on the wall. I would have been bottom man for at least 20 years because the guys loved their jobs. It was inside work, carpenter wages and all. But I would have been the bottom man. And then the neighbor to my father-in-law was a foreman, and he was actually a coppersmith when the pipe shop made their own copper pipe. He was a foreman in there, and he kept trying to talk me into coming to Mare Island because you can advance and do good. If you're a good man, you had a good career there. And after the Carpenters Union and our business agent, who I won't mention his name, kind of screwed us on a contract deal, did a bunch of lying to us, I said, forget that, and I went to Mare Island, and being a vet, I got well over 100 points and started right there.
So what was your first job in Mare Island?
Pipe fitter. Yeah, working in the pipe shop, and I liked it. I'd done plumbing before and done a lot of remodeling and stuff with my brothers who were in the cabinet countertop business. And so I did pretty good at pipe fitting, and at first you have to work from the forward end of a submarine or in the ballast tank so you don't have a security clearance. And by the time I went into the apprenticeship after about 9 months, by the time I was second year apprentice, I was training mechanics. They'd hire a mechanic, a guy that knew plumbing, they'd make him a mechanic, and I was training them. Because I really liked the job, I liked working on submarines, and I picked it up real fast. And ended up getting a 6-month advancement off the apprenticeship because I, did so well, and also.
Well, you ended up as sort of the foreman of the non-nuclear.
Yeah, the clean room. The prior years before Mare Island closed, when it began to slow down, the people that were running the shop at that time had been in my apprentice class, so I was good friends with them. And they asked me what I wanted to do. I'd done everything else in the pipe shop, in a foreman and all. And I said, I'd like to run the clean room because I run a business and I need to know about hazardous materials and hazardous waste and things like that. And so they said, well, let's talk about it. And so I went down there, looked at the clean room, and it was known as the unclean room because the guy that was running it was one of the typical Mare Island guys that didn't like working, so he sat a lot and didn't do his job. And I looked at the clean room and thought I really liked it. It was a dirty clean room and all, but it was fairly new from the building being new. And they asked me, did I want to run it? And I said, yeah, but if I run it for you, I want to run it like a business. I want you to leave me alone. I don't want any of these stupid games that you played for years on me, because I had a business and well respected in the community, and they agreed, and so I got it up and running and rewrote some of the processes for cleaning and painted everything, and actually made it for the first time past state environmental inspections by, there was a lot of acid tanks and stuff like that, which made the air foul. And when I first started working there, you could walk by an acid tank and taste the acid. Well, that's a bad thing, so I got everything running perfect again, and for the first time passed the state inspections. And then I went into hazardous waste more, and that kind of helped me out in business.
Mm-hmm. So once you retired from there, you actually started the North Bay Cabinets?
No, I actually started the cabinet shop in '78. So
you did it that whole time while you
Yeah.
still worked at Mare Island?
Yeah, I had 2 jobs, and what I would do, one of my brothers would work the shop for me, and I'd go in after getting off work at Mare Island and work for a while, put in long hours, and then finally when it got bigger that I needed to be there, when I went to turn in my resignation, they asked me not to quit because I was one of the better hydraulic pipe fitters and knowing the systems real well. So they said they'd transfer me to graveyard and transfer the lead on the hydraulic systems to me, which normally you wouldn't do. And I said, okay, I'll try it. And it worked well. I got a lot of work done because there's nobody bothering you on graveyard. And I'd work my shop all day long. So it's been slowly growing and growing and growing until we hit the bad economy. Now it's just mediocre.
Yeah, well, I know you do great work.
Thank you.
I've worked with you a lot, and you're a fine businessman.
Thank you.
So one of the things you've gotten into lately is your interest in local history, and you were mentioning that you actually went to one of the oldest graveyards in Vallejo. Mm-hmm. And did a survey of all the headstones in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Was it just one or was it 2?
Well, first I'm a volunteer for findagrave.com, and what that is, when you were in New York, if you knew your father, say, was buried out here, or your uncle or something like that, and you're doing your family history and you wanted a picture of his headstone or grave site, you'd turn in a request on findagrave.com. I would get that request, and I would go to whatever cemetery he was in and find his headstone, clean it up, and take a picture of it, and put it on the website and send it back to you. So, and I found that because I do a lot of the Carter family history, and one of my relatives took a picture and passed it to me through findagrave.com. So I volunteered, and we would get a lot of requests for Carquinez Cemetery. Now, the Genealogical Society in Vallejo Benicia had done some kind of a takeoff, because there are records that exist, but they're off buried somewhere in some building and all. And it's a city cemetery that nobody takes care of. And it was started by Frisbee in like 1857, and when he got a little older, in like 1897, I think it was, he turned over the city. And the problem with it, nobody kept records of who was buried.